The last round saw our top three in the points scrunch even closer to one another. However, they are not the only ones in the hunt for the championship. Rick Sheldon may have been put on his back foot after Le Mans and Laguna Seca, but he's still mathematically able to take it. Sonoma is familiar to all here, so it will be hard to find an edge as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Turn 2.0 Flying Huskies, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sonoma Raceway hosted the IndyCar finale for a number of years. Bringing these open-wheel cars to the circuit will feel right at home, so let's take a look at our track guide. Welcome to Sonoma Raceway. One of California's most famous road courses, it resides just north of San Francisco. It's been host to a wide variety of styles of racing, including sports cars, Indy cars, motorcycles, and even drag racing. But in recent decades, it's become most well known for holding one of NASCAR's rare road course weekends. For most tracks, this cornucopia would be a stretch, but considering the array of 5 different layouts to choose from, it's quite easy for the circuit to be adapted to any series needs. Most of the layouts clock in at around 2 to 2.5 miles in length and always feature an impressive amount of elevation change. This means many of the corners present the driver with a blind entry or apex. Some of these have a very distinct visual look, making them instantly recognizable. Corners such as the chute and the final hairpin feature street course-like walls surrounding the track, while the carousel is both picturesque and challenging. With few long straights, passing is often considered very difficult, but it rarely leaves races with a lack of action. Mistakes can be easy to make, offering opportunities for the brave. And it's not just the track itself which is tough. The pit entry's narrow path requires precise driving for those looking to make up time and leapfrog their competitors during stops. With more than 40 years of racing under its belt, Sonoma has become a staple for West Coast race fans. And what could be better than a glass of vino on a sunny hillside while the sound of engines echo around you? Well, DJ, we mentioned F1, IndyCar rather, having raced here. But now we've got Formula 3 cars, going to be a little smaller, a little lighter, a little less powerful. What's that going to mean?
Well, Joe, it's going to mean that this track's going to be just slightly more manageable than it is in the high-powered beasts that are the IndyCar, but rest assured it is still going to be a handful for all of these drivers. Some of the danger zones that they're really going to have to watch out for are the typical ones that you would imagine. Obviously, the turns 2, 3, and 4 complexes always very tricky. The run up and back down the hill with the elevation change, it's very hard to get your braking point right and getting the car turned. In turn 2 in particular, if you get on the throttle just a fraction of a second too early, that is a one-way ticket to send the car spinning around. But because of the open wheel nature of these cars, there's some other unexpected areas they're going to have to watch out for. If you don't get the right line through the carousel of turn 6, that can be a little tricky, and that's also very important because it really sets up one of the better overtaking opportunities on this circuit, which is going into the double apex right-hander of turn 7. Now, the other major overtaking opportunity that we always talk about, well, that's the hairpin going down into turn 11. And we are in a bit of luck here today because we're running the long circuit. It is that extended hairpin, so there's going to be just that little much more room for these cars to get up to speed, and they're going to have to brake all the harder, and that's going to make for better overtaking.
Well, we'll take a look at the cars in a moment. Before that, we want to remind you that this race is brought to you by Norsled. Norsled is a non-profit animal welfare organization dedicated to rescuing, rehabilitating, and finding homes for unwanted, abandoned, and abused husky dogs. Today, every Flying Husky Racing track day or car event benefits Norsled with a portion of the proceeds donated to them. Even if you can't adopt, you can still help and ensure care for these amazing animals through your support. Save a Husky. For more information, contact Todd Curtis through email at todd@flyinghusky.racing.
Flying Husky Racing is a car club based in the Pacific Northwest that delivers premium track days and car events for automotive enthusiasts. FHR is dedicated to safety, development, and building community among members and participants. Find out more on the web at flyinghusky.racing. Flying Husky Racing, track days are the best days.
Turn 2.0 Drivers Club is a car club based in Northern California and founded in April of 2020. The club runs approximately 20 private days a year at Sonoma Raceway in Thunder Hill. It was created as a private exclusive membership club designed for and by race car, track day, and racing enthusiasts that share like-minded values. These include safety first, camaraderie, fairness, diverse interests, and love of cars, as well as a desire to learn and grow as drivers on and off the track. Have fun, be safe, and go faster.
And finally, today's race is brought to you by VSRS Motorsports. VSRS Motorsports is a multi-purpose consulting business focusing on motorsports marketing and digital media space, as well as exotic, historic, and race car sales and other experiential events for cars enthusiasts. Contact Rick Sheldon to learn more about VSRS Motorsports. Cool people, cool cars, cool events.
We also want to give a shout to Mo Smith, who unfortunately could not make it for the finale. He's actually got good reason. You can see he's actually in Le Castellet out in France. So a big what's up to Mo Smith, and hopefully we can have you running with us again in the next season, since this is the finale. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the championship. And the driver points are quite close. However, we are missing Dan Dwyer here today. So only Pansgrau, Anderson, and Sheldon are eligible to try and take the championship. You can see they're a little bit spread apart. Dwyer was the best position to try and overtake Pansgrau, so it's going to be tougher for both David and Rick to be able to take everything home after today. What about the race details for this event, DJ?
Well, Joe, today's race details, we are going to be at the Turn 1 Club Alumni Inaugural Homecoming Race at Sonoma. As we mentioned earlier, we are driving those Dallara F3s. Currently, cars are out on track, so it is a 10-minute solo qualifying session on what they are doing right now. That'll be preceded by a 20-minute race, and this is crucial. Faster pairs are available, so they will be able to hop into the pits to get a new car if trouble does befall them during the course of the race.
Now, it looks like our drivers have finished their qualifying. We're just waiting for the clock to tick down. And so while we've got some time, the driver at the top of that sheet, Rick Sheldon, actually provided our song that we were playing prior to the broadcast. That was Light Me from his album One More Elephant. So a big thank you to Rick for that, and definitely encourage everybody to go check that out. Well, as we wait for them to eventually get to the grid, 5 cars out here, another 20-minute sprint race. Rick is positioned well, but he's the farthest back from trying to overtake Pansgrau in terms of the championship fight, DJ. So put yourself in Rick's shoes. You've got Kurt back and forth. You're starting on the pole. What's your aim today?
Well, as is frankly the case most times I come to Sonoma, it's all about survival and just keeping the car on the black stuff. This is a very, very tricky circuit, very easy to get offline. But I think for Rick, because he's looking at that championship, he's going to have to push himself a little bit harder than the other drivers. He's really going to want to go for broke. The opposite of that, if I'm Kurt Pansgrau, I'm going to want to sit back, be cautious, and be as consistent as possible. I just want to finish this race, and that's going to give me the best opportunity to take home the championship.
Well, the last 5 seconds tick off in this qualifying session, and we're about to head into the race, the season finale for the Turn 2.0 Flying Huskies. And your starting order for today's race, of course, as we mentioned, had Rick Sheldon on the pole with John Showerman starting in P2. It'll be Dave Anderson who will be third, and Kurt Pansgrau, the last one to put a time in fourth, as Todd Curtis will start in fifth. And they are already off as the green flag flies. Looks like it's a decent start for Sheldon, but already Showerman takes a little bit of a peek up through turn 1. The braking down into 2 is a tough one, especially at the start of races, but it looks like everyone's clean.
Everybody being very cautious there on these cold tires. That's such an easy place to get caught out by. They now climb up the hill and immediately crest back down. This is turn 4, one of the most deceptively tricky corners on the track. Everybody getting through a little bit of a lock up there from Todd Curtis, but everybody's safe and on their way.
Unfortunately for Pansgrau, he's fallen to 5th now as Rick Sheldon leads the way. He's got a gap of about a second over Showerman, so that early challenge is not kept up here through this next part of the lap. into one of the popular places to pass down into 7.
Yeah, and there they go. It's a very deceptive corner there. You see just how much asphalt runoff there is. Your natural instinct is to really try to wing that wide, but you want to keep it relatively tight through that double apex right-hander. Now they work their way through the S's in these F3 cars. It's a little bit more lift-off-ish than you would see in the Indy cars. Whoa!
Big wreck for Showerman, and that is going to send Anderson scrambling to avoid him. Thankfully, he does. Unfortunately, Showerman going to have to come in and take his spare car. Let's take a look at how this happened. Did he just get loose? It's happened so suddenly.
It really did, Joe. Yeah, it looks like he just got a little bit loose. I don't expect any real problems to be had from catching that curb at the end there. All right, so here's the blimp shot. Let's see the line in.
That was tires just not up to temperature yet. They're only on the first lap, and they had no warm-up lap for these things.
That's a very real possibility, Joe. I mean, track temperature right now is only 82 degrees Fahrenheit, and I would expect going through the S's, you'd get them just about to the point. That could be a situation where John was feeling a little bit more lucky than his tires could provide.
Well, that has given Sheldon a big gap because Anderson had to check up to get around the wrecking car. He's 3.5 behind. The battle is mostly for third between Curtis and Pansgrau. Now, Pansgrau's been promoted to 4th because of Showerman's incident, who's still waiting on the car to tow in, and he can hop into his spare. So Pansgrau up 1, unless he wrecks himself, unlikely to lose it at this point. How hard does he try and push Curtis to get onto the podium?
Well, if I'm Kurt Pansgrau, I'm doing the math in my head. I think he is okay from 4th position, but nevertheless, I'm going to want to try to make up anything I can. I think what you saw Kurt do here was a very smart move. He didn't go too hard through the S's. He deliberately backed off, wanting to avoid the aero wash. You see him start to catch up on a little bit of the straighter sections around Sonoma. Shoulder. You can see how much it rises up there. Oh, but he gains a bunch under braking into turn 2 as Todd Curtis has his hands full now through the very blind 3A over the crest, trying to keep it out of the dirt. Both of them nice and clean. And again, this is a track where pretty much all of these drivers have driven here before in real life, so they should know it like the back of their hand. Indeed, it's something I'm very much looking forward to asking them about how it compares in real life as to the sim, as there we see another lockup from Todd Curtis, definitely starting to feel the pressure here from Pansgrau. That is not going to be lost on Kurt Pansgrau. He is going to see all of that brake smoke, and he is just going to keep on pressing Todd Curtis as much as possible, not too hard.
He's still behind him, but he's not been able to overtake. These two have been losing time to Dave Anderson up in front. It was about 4 seconds back. Now it's 7.7. Dave has also been catching Rick Sheldon. It's down to 2.8 seconds. I believe that was at 3.4 last time I looked. So Rick might have to play a little defense here for the lead if Dave keeps us up.
Indeed, he might. And again, on those laps, it looks like Dave has just got some very, very quick times here. Something to note is it may just be a quirk on my live timing and scoring, but I don't think he may be getting a few off tracks here, as it's not showing up for a fastest lap for him, although he is going faster than Rick Sheldon in front of him to the tune of about 0.7 of a second a lap.
Yeah, I think that would be the reasoning why we're not seeing that show up, as he plunges downhill through the carousel, still at about 2.6 seconds. And I can report for fans of the number 1, John Showerman, he is back out on track and running, but he is unfortunately a lap down.
Ooh, and Joe, just taking a look back, I noticed that Kurt Pansgrau had fallen back from Todd Curtis coming up over the crest of turn 1. Car got very, very loose, and he had to catch it in a tail slide. There you see him locking up the brakes again. So Pansgrau has lost a bunch of time to Curtis. He's now about 4 seconds back.
Might be about a minute back from where we are. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this is just after it. Let's see if we can grab this one more time. This should give us a good angle on it. Right up and to the crest of it. Ooh, wow. Oh, and nice job catching that. It's so easy to let it drift into the grass there.
It very much is, and that's exactly what I was talking about in the pre-race, Joe, about getting onto the power at exactly the right time. You don't want to go too early because not only will you be fighting oversteer, but your tires will spin a little bit and it'll really press it. There we ride on board with Kurt. You can see that corner is just so difficult. Every time you crest over it, you do not think the car is going to make it. But Kurt making it look good there. Now coming up over 3A, lining up. He's already gapped that gap down to about 2.8 seconds.
So has Anderson on Sheldon. It's down to about 2 seconds between the pair of them. Last time, Anderson with a 23.9, almost exactly what he ran the lap before. Sheldon with a 24.2. Now, Sheldon's picking up the pace. He went about 0.4 quicker last time by. So Anderson might find those inroads to be a little tougher if that continues. Even still, this has been impressive. The 62's not giving up on it.
No, he certainly is not. Very much making this a race for Rick Sheldon and trying to see what he can do. One thing of interest. Ooh, big lock up there for Dave Anderson. Oh, no, that was a spin for Dave.
Yep, he lost control, and there went all of his gap that he had cut down. We're going to watch it one more time. Did he lock up the rears? What did he do?
Sights up the corner, comes in. Yeah, looks like just a little bit too much trail braking there. That caused the rear to spin around, but he's able to catch it very quickly and get it turned back the right way. Gap now up to about 6.3 seconds, so Dave's got 12 minutes to really try to reel him in.
Oh, he's got a boogie, though. We've almost gotten halfway through this race. A mention about Showerman before I said he was a lap down. That is not accurate. He is almost a lap down. I spoke too soon. Sheldon has a couple seconds to make up to reach him. There you can see the California driver working his way around turn 7. Sheldon looks to be about maybe 7 or 8 seconds behind him at the moment. Love these onboard shots. And, well, that seems to be something new, if I'm not mistaken. Did they put a little bit of bobble into the head from the bumps? iRacing just sneaking little things in here for us.
Well, all right. Always trying to make it be a little bit more realistic, and I have to say I absolutely love that. And just a note, looking at it, it looks like Showerman is pretty much matching pace with Rick Sheldon right now. So Showerman may not find himself a lap down if he can keep it all together here.
Now, I'm going to actually have to do some research and figure out if Pansgrau can still take this championship by finishing in 4th, because that's looking pretty consistent, but he is still running down Curtis. It's down to about 2 seconds, so it's not a foregone conclusion. Just it's going to be tough for him to make that overtake.
Agreed, but once again, Joe, as we watch Pansgrau on your screen, he is just gaining a bunch of time up through that first 2 sequence of corners, specifically going up the hill into turn 2 where we saw Pansgrau lose it. He was able to gain about 0.4 of a second over Todd Curtis, get that gap now down to about 1.5 seconds. Watch
from on board. Now he's got Curtis within his sights. It's always so much more of an impetus to be able to see your target and try to run it down. They brake hard into turn 7, taking it down to a measly 55 miles an hour before they accelerate off the corner yet again and swing it through the S's. And as I said, this is a very, very tricky place to do it. You can see on the rev limiter there from Pansgrau just having to lift ever so slightly as he comes through some of it. There you go, John Showerman setting the fastest lap of the race. And now for Pansgrau, hard braking down into a big lockup from Todd Curtis. Just a plume of smoke coming off of the 72. And the 3 now gets it down to 1.1 seconds. Last lap was a 24.8. That was Kurt's fastest lap so far, as Todd Curtis, his slip up, cost him a 10th off of his quickest. Yeah, and so now Pansgrau has got it down to a second. Here he comes up and over that crest. You can see just the much smoother line that Pansgrau is running there. He does always seem to lose a little bit of time coming
down through that turn 4 corridor, but he's able to gain it back really through the S's.
It goes, back up to 1.4 and even more than that now as he spins coming through the carousel. Oh, if that costs him the championship, he's going to be kicking himself. Of course, there's plenty of chances that he could have taken it elsewhere, but whenever it comes down to that last race, it's always in your mind.
Exactly. It's always going to be sticking with you, and very tough for Kurt Pansgrau. Not really going to be able to do too much of it, but here is Rick Sheldon as he crosses the line with just over 8 minutes to go.
Doing everything he needs to do. He put it on the pole. He's been leading every lap thus far, while Showerman put on a little bit of a challenge at the start of the first lap. Since then, with his wreck, he's nowhere to be seen. Definitely could have been a real challenge, absolutely, I think, because of the fact that he keeps taking fastest lap and has been avoided being lapped by Sheldon, for one thing.
It's really a pretty impressive drive here from John. We're going to ride on board with him, the California driver, as he makes his way up towards turn 7, hard onto the binders here. You can see what I'm talking about. All of that runoff off to the left, but you want to keep that corner a lot tighter than you would naturally think, and now works his way through the S's as he comes through here. Little bit of a lift off there, coming through those tricky parts of it, and then on to full power here into 6th gear. That car up to about 145 miles an hour, bleeding off a little bit of speed through the right-hander, and then hard onto the throttle until he brakes for the hairpin.
Such a technical course here in California. That Sonoma has certainly been thrilling us, not only in the real world, but here on the sim as well. They've actually added, I believe, an extra layout since the last build here. Of course, they're not running it today. They're running that traditional full layout that NASCAR has returned to. Showerman continues his way on. So does Rick Sheldon behind him, but a lap up. And in fact, looks like with a little less than 7 minutes to go, we're down to about 5 laps left, I think.
I think that's about right, Joe. And normally I would say this thing's relatively done and dusted, but as we've seen multiple times here today, Sonoma can always throw up a potential roadblock, and especially if I'm sitting in that 63 of Rick Sheldon, I'm going to be sweating a little bit, making sure I hit all my apexes right.
A little bit of a lockup there for Todd Curtis as he takes it through 4. Through the middle of the course now, up and over the blind crest that leads you into the carousel. Car just keeps going and going, having the longest turn ever. And then onto the drag strip where the car starts to fly once again and brakes hard into turn 7. 72 is much safer at this point. While Pansgrau was applying a lot of pressure, Todd's looking at a podium at this point. As we heard DJ mention, it's so easy to slip up. Especially, the last portion and the very start of the lap always reminds me a bit of a street course, the way this thing is laid out.
It very much is. I mean, you go onto the main straightaway here, Joe, and you can really see it. The walls just close in on you. It's almost claustrophobic as Curtis has another big lockup right on board with Dave Anderson here. You can see really there's not a lot of runoff everywhere, and yes, I know that there does look like there's a lot of brown stuff off to the left as you go, but that is a very steep banked hill, and if you hit it, it acts like a wall.
Absolutely. So Anderson still in second. Ever since he popped himself into that spot because of John's problems, he's not been able to challenge Rick Sheldon. Continues to be just that little bit slower, and it's up to 8 seconds to the leader. You can't even really see him up in front of him despite the long drag strip here. So, unfortunately for Dave, he's probably just kind of working his way towards the finish at this point, hoping to wrap this up on a high note here for the season. Round 10 out of 10. And the Turn 2.0 Flying Huskies, now less than 5 minutes to go. And looks like Rick Sheldon's just coming up to finish another lap.
Is indeed. The rear end of that car looking a little bit squirrely right there, but Rick is able to keep it underneath him. So here he goes crossing the line. I'm going to say probably 3 or 4 more laps to go here for Rick, depending on what his next lap is. But he is putting in very solid times, Joe. That was his personal best on the last time out of a 23.522.
So Rick hustling it no matter what. And we look at Anderson once again, coming through the 3 and 3A section. Thankfully, no worry about life and limb here, as that's quite a scary corner. You talked about how close those barriers are. I believe, was it Ryan Hunter-Ray that hurt himself there at one point?
I believe that's right, although I'd have to go back and double check it.
Yeah, I'd need to as well. I do remember an IndyCar driver, unfortunately, getting quite a thwack in the wall in practice there at one point a couple years ago. In the meantime, back to Kurt Pansgrow in the number 3 car, still running in 4th place, about 41 seconds rather, I'll get it right eventually, off of our leader, Rick Sheldon, who he is fighting with for the championship. Of course, we haven't mentioned it, but Anderson is as well, but with Anderson behind Sheldon and them being only split by 1 point, I believe Rick would come out ahead of the pair of them.
Yes, I believe that math is right. And Joe, I can report, I just checked it out. It was actually Will Power and Nelson Philippe. Coming down the hill, Philippe had spun. Power saw him unsighted, smacked into him. He actually broke a vertebra when he did it.
It's amazing that some of those drivers keep racing. I feel like after a spinal injury, I would just be like, that's it. that's good enough for me after that point. And 3 minutes left to go now. You can see Sheldon on the drag strip and picking up speed, and before he slams on the brakes, I think he's been catching up a bit more to Showerman. It's hard to tell. We don't get exact gaps between them since he's not a lap down quite yet. Every once in a while, I catch glances that feel like they've been closer than before.
Yeah, just doing a little bit of math, I think he's got it to around 5 seconds is what it looks like. And you can see Showerman having a little bit of lockup there, so that's not going to help that gap at all. Yeah, indeed, as they cross the start-finish line, let's triple check this. But yeah, Rick Sheldon has gotten the gap down to about 4.8 seconds to the lap car of John Showerman. And
he's only got 2 laps to go that time by. But these 20 minutes, they probably feel like an eternity. And I'm trying to think, I believe, actually, let me check the stats. Yes, this will be Rick's first win of the season if he finishes where he is.
Well, and Rick will be delighted to have that happen. We've seen him have a lot of good speed over the course of the year. He's been involved in some very unfortunate opening lap incidents, as well as just some rotten luck here and there. But today has really put on a textbook drive in how to do this. He's still got about a circuit and a half to do here at Sonoma, and that is no easy task.
Interesting note, I think there's been some mistakes from Todd Curtis. I see a couple slow-ish laps, and Kurt's got it back down to 3.7 seconds. He's not given up.
Well, that's exactly what you've got to do. The gap went down to about 2.5 by about 2.5 seconds on the last lap, so I'm not sure if that was a mistake from Todd or if Kurt is just absolutely pushing, but that gap definitely coming down.
It ain't over till it's over. White flag waves for Rick Sheldon. 1 more lap before it's over for the 63 this season. He comes up the hill, and Dave Anderson just comes around the last couple corners. 15.7 seconds between them already. And then that gap, since we even looked away just less than a minute ago, Curtis has been caught by Pansgrow by another couple tenths.
It's now down under 2.3 seconds as they line up into the hairpin. Now remember, Pansgrau's best part of the circuit is that opening complex of corners. Really good line there for Pansgrau through that final hairpin. He's now setting his sights ahead. The gap's under 2 seconds, Joe.
He has a realistic shot at this one, but we'll need to double check the math and see if this will affect the championship or not, as Rick Sheldon continues to lead the way. In fact, Rick is already into the S's here on the final lap. We'll jump over to that in just a moment, but you can visibly see that Pansgrau is closing. He's got it down to a second now, but we've got to go to Rick Sheldon. He hits the final hairpin, the last lap of the season. He's been waiting all season long for the win, and it's finally going to come at the stroke of midnight. The 63 takes it home in California.
Just an epic run on one of the trickiest tracks on the circuit. An amazing job there for Rick Sheldon. We now watch as Dave Anderson makes his way through the hairpin for the last time. An equally calm, cool, and collected run for Dave Anderson as he crosses the line.
Now Pansgrau had it down to a second, but it's gone back up to 1.3. There's just 2 more corners left to go, and only one of them requires braking. I don't think it is on, unless Curtis severely botches the exit here, which he does not. It's not going to be in the cards. So Curtis rounds out the podium, and Pansgrau follows him across in 4th. We'll try and confirm whether or not that changes the championship positions, as John Showerman will take it home last on the field. All right, that brings us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Sonoma Raceway. The season finale for the Turn 2.0 Flying Huskies wound up with Rick Sheldon taking the victory, but from our math, he has not claimed the championship. Dave Anderson finished second behind him, with Todd Curtis getting onto the podium and a nice third. Kurt Pansgrau, it wasn't the way that he wanted to finish it, I'm sure, but a fourth will clinch the title for him as John Showerman rounds out our 5 that race today here at Sonoma Raceway. That brings us to our group, including our winner here today, Rick Sheldon, as we shuffle them into the booth with us. And Rick, congratulations. It took all season, but you finally topped the podium.
Hey, thank you very much. I really appreciate having the opportunity to spend the season with you guys.
Well, it's been a joy getting to watch these with you guys as well. But talk to us about the start. It looked like Showerman was giving you a little bit of a threat off the line. If he hadn't have had his incident, do you think he would have been challenging you for the win?
Oh, yeah. John and I were very similar pace in practice and very similar in qualifying. And he's a great driver. He's got more experience in the real world than I do. Both of us probably have spun a whole lot of laps at Sonoma. So, but if he was behind me for the race, that would have been a little more challenging than having a gap that I had. That's for sure.
Well, we heard about how the song that we played for you at the start that you wrote was a little bit inspired by racing. Mm-hmm. Do you think you'll get a song out of this victory?
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that's a good challenge, Joe. I'm going to take it.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what that sounds like.
Okay.
And I believe we have DJ with our champion, who unfortunately finished 4th, but still came home and won the war.
Indeed, Kurt. Little bit of a scruffy race out there for you, but certainly one to watch. How do you like Sonoma in the virtual world?
Oh, man. It's the first time I've been on the track, and it's really tough for me. It's so many places to screw up, and I think I found them all.
I feel you, man. I've driven this track many, many times on the sim, and I can never, ever figure it out. But looking at the big picture, the consistency over the course of the season, it's got to feel good to be able to come home with a win. Yeah,
that's great that come out top on the points. Certainly not the fastest, but put down some consistent laps, and that seemed to get the points I needed so I could stay on top.
Well, we certainly wish you congratulations, and I have to ask, is this just making you a little bit itchy to get back and start driving around as much as you can in real life after coming home with some hardware here?
Well, certainly I want to get on the track for real.
I think we all do. I know I do. And then I want to turn to our second place finisher tonight, Dave Anderson. Dave, looked like a bit of a quiet race for you out there, but still coming home second. I think a very, very consistent run for you here today.
Yeah, thanks. It was, a great group of guys here. All know the track well and know these cars well. Like Rick mentioned, everyone practicing and qualifying very close, within hundredths of a second of each other, and so. I knew that we'd need to be doing laps in the mid 123s, so I came out and I was knocking down 123 and change, and but Rick never made a mistake. This is his track, and did very well out there. I had a couple places where I was trying to pick up time, and that put me in the position where I had to push a little harder than I wanted to. So that took me around a couple of spins, but no harm, no foul. It was a great race, and happy to come in behind Rick on this one.
Yeah, I did notice that especially thinking about the second third of the race, it looked like you were starting to claw in there a little bit, and I'm curious, where did you think you had the speed on him?
Well, I think Rick might have said it in practice. I was picking up time in 4. There were, I think he was getting me in 7 and 11, the hairpins. But I started really making myself concentrate a little better on getting inside on 11. Started taking back some of the time I was giving away earlier on in the race. So I think it's just all about consistency, like some of the other guys said here. That was the key here. But I think. It was just a little bit here, a little bit there.
Well, they tell me that's the way you win races. And now, Joe, I believe you've caught up with John Showerman.
Indeed. Unfortunately, not the day that he was looking for with that wreck at the start. John, what do you think caused that one? Because we were trying to figure out what broke the car loose on you.
It's just driver error is all you can say. I was so worried about turn 2 and turn 4, and I had a nice little run at the start on Rick, but I just thought, it's just going to be dangerous, so I thought I'd be patient. Going to be a fun race, and I really was not expecting anything in 10. In all of the practice laps, I've never spun there, and so I think I just wasn't ready for a hair of oversteer. So it's just my own fault. The car did nothing wrong. It was all me. So the only thing I'm super disappointed about is Rick. Obviously great win for him, great race, and Dave and our times are all identical, really, in practice and in qualifying in the race, and that would have made for a really, really fun race. So kind of disappointed to let myself down and also let them down a little bit. But congrats to those guys for a great finish and no mistakes.
It did look like you were still pushing. There were a few times you took fastest lap. Was your goal essentially to not get lapped at that point?
When I came out of the pits, he was, I think, 3.6 seconds behind me, and I just thought, oh, man, don't let him lap you. Come on. So, yeah, that was a big goal right then.
Well, we all got to set something to try and keep ourselves motivated, I suppose. But that brings us to Todd Curtis, who gets himself on the podium today. Todd, congratulations on that. You also withstood a lot of pressure as Kurt was right behind you for much of that race.
Yeah, thanks. It wasn't the cleanest podium finish I'd ever seen. And to finish third, you must third finish, said no one ever. But that's okay. It was a great race. I enjoyed being out there with those guys. I had a couple sloppy moments at the end that made it a little more excitement, but Kurt is so consistent. I knew when I saw him in the rear view, I thought I was going to be in trouble. So I was just glad the race was going to end at that point. And like the other guys, maybe I had some benefit. I've turned a lot of laps in this place, and I've probably spun everywhere there is to spin before. So I didn't have to do it tonight, which was great. And I really just enjoyed the whole experience. Dave ran a really tight ship and kept this thing on track. Rick was super inspired and was just bubbling over with ideas the whole time. I think showed really great progression through the season. So congrats there, man. Kurt was Mr. Consistency, no question. And John kind of came in late and brought real world experience to us and it showed us, some amazing skills out there. So it was really great. The rest of the crew, it's been a great season. Enjoy it, and we're excited about what comes next. So, we're going to be back doing more of this, and but before that, we'll all be, some of us here will be together on this very track not too long from now. So, looking forward to that too.
Oh, we're looking forward to seeing how that goes, and we hope to see some pictures from that. But you've talked about that, and the others have talked about the experience there. I'm very curious then, do you feel like it translates one-to-one, or is there certain things that just don't quite feel like the real thing?
Yeah, it's not quite one-to-one. I would say these cars are faster than what we drove a little. If I would have ever driven a 120 anything, I would have been on the front page of local media or something. I think the track record in the car we were driving was set by Pietro Fittipaldi, and I want to say that was in the mid 134s. So just comparably, these are faster cars. A lot of the adjustments do translate. The way the track develops was interesting. It was similar, but sort of at a different rate, I would say. I had a lot more experience driving the chicane, and I think I was overruled, and I don't think that was even a track configuration option. So it's cool. The Fast 9 is fun. I'd never been on the rev limiter quite so long at this track before, so that was also kind of neat. Yeah. So some similarities for sure. It definitely helped because I didn't practice a lot, and so some muscle memory, and some of that was the correct muscle memory, and some of it was not right for the car, but overall, I think it helped.
It was a very cool perspective to hear. And again, congratulations on an exciting season, guys. Especially
Thanks,
congratulations to Kurt and Rick. Does anybody have any special thank yous before we let you go?
I'd love to jump in and say a couple things. This has been a phenomenal season. Definitely want to say thanks to Dave Anderson for being the race director, because there's no doubt that he pulled this whole thing off. Thanks to Todd for getting Global Racing in with us. And a couple of things that are really important for me is to say thank you versus Stefan Wilson, who really got us, Dave and I, into the sim world. came out and ran with us at Le Mans and showed us what it's all about. He's going to be back, and there will be more of his ilk following us into a few select celebrity races next year. Wanted to also say thanks to Nolan Siegel, who I have to say gave me a little bit of a secret tip on this track, which I may or may not share with you guys next season. That was really cool. A good old Nolan, who had won the championship here at 13 years old. And then to our Turn 2 club members out in Northern California, many more of them are building sims right now, and they're coming out. And I know some of the Flying Huskies are coming out. Our goal is to double and triple the field. We'd like to see a minimum field of 10 and sometimes up to 20, 22. So thank you guys so much for letting us have such a great season. And we're going to really bring a great one in season 2.
Yeah, I'd just like to add my thanks to Norsled. They sponsor us by us sponsoring them in some ways. So in doing all this fun stuff, it's cool to have something important and good to direct our energy to. So all the Flying Husky activities that we have in some way contribute to them. And it's fun to raise some awareness for them on the cars and during the broadcast. So thanks for the shout outs to them, and Save a Husky, norsled.org.
Well, I can tell you that that is definitely a cause close to my heart, and can't thank every one of the drivers, both the 5 that were here today and everybody else from the season for as well. Find out more on the web about Flying Husky Racing at flyinghusky.racing. Track days are the best days. And Turn 2.0 Drivers Club. Have fun, be safe, and go faster. As well as VRS Motorsports. Contact Rick Sheldon, learn more. Cool people, cool cars, cool events. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check out our social media as we have listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support the channel, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenbeat.com. We have a link in the description below. Don't forget to head on over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button so you don't miss a moment on GSRC. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.